So, insecurities. I have a lot of experience with this, and I think everybody has a lot of experience with this. I think any human in society would... Oh yeah, by the way, we are in this moment, and today we're talking about insecurities. So, I think any normal human being, or not even any normal, I think any human being that lives in society is going to have some experience with this, or they're going to deal with this in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, me personally, I have a lot of experience with this. You know, I always had a insecurity. I mean, for a lot of my life, I had an insecurity of my skin. I don't know if you could see it. Like, I always had skin issues. I had skin issues since I was about 12 years old. So, like, when I was entering middle school, that's when, like, I started to have, you know, skin issues and develop skin issues, you know, even on my neck. You know, I have some scarring because I've had like acne what feels like majority of my life. So yeah, I've had skin issues for the longest time, and it's gotten to a point. It got to a point in, you know, in the past where it developed into an insecurity, and I think this is what a lot of people go through. This isn't abnormal. If you live in, you know, any society, you know, that has beauty standards, that has this sort of image, this sort of cookie cut out sort of image that you need to kind of step into and you need to fit into, as far as the beauty standards, as far as how you need to look to be accepted, to fit in, and to sort of blend in with the crowds and with the groups in society. So, and if you don't, you know, you don't fit into this sort of cookie cutter or this cookie cut out image, then you feel out of place. You don't feel like you fit in. You don't feel like maybe people are gonna accept you, and you know, you're gonna start having maybe self-esteem issues and like confidence issues, and just self, you know, what's the word? It's like you have issues with your image. You have you know, your subconscious about certain, you know, features that you have or that you carry. And, you know, if you don't fit into that image that society has created, then you're not going to maybe feel so good about yourself, maybe on a subconscious level or a conscious level. So, anyways, yeah, I ended up getting insecure because I've you know, since the age of 12, I've been having skin issues, and you know, it really started to manifest itself as a insecurity, you know. And I've had like other insecurities, such as like my height, but luckily the divine took care of that. I thought I manifested it away, but you know, the thing is like I started getting really insecure about my face and about my skin and about how people would look at me when I would step foot into a room, when I would walk into a room. And yeah, there's just so much going on right now. They got flies, the wind's kind of blowing. Every little thing is distracting me right now, and I'm not caffeinated. So yeah, I stepped foot into a room And it's like my awareness would shift outside of myself, and it would go into the people that were looking at me and watching me, or maybe not that people were really observing me, but maybe through my perception I thought people were going to observe me and watch me because of how my face looked and because of my my insecurities, when in reality it's like nobody actually cared about my insecurities besides their own insecurities. And people are so caught up in their own little bubble and in their own little little domes. So it's like I would step foot into a room and my awareness would shift to how people would see me, and how they would watch, how they would see me, and that would be reflected on how I was portraying myself and how I was appearing to be. And it's like I was creating all of these sort of narratives and sort of ideas in my head that weren't actually existing, that they never existed. Yeah, maybe there would have been somebody who, maybe looked at me and maybe they saw my skin or my face and they're like, okay, and then they just dismissed it, and just like anybody else, and then they would just kind of go back into living in their little bubble, living in their little reality, and focusing maybe on their own insecurities. Because most people, there's like a huge ant on my camera stand, but yeah, people, it's like if they're not focusing on your insecurities, they're probably focusing on their own insecurities, or their own little realities and their own little thoughts of what their life's all about and what they're experiencing in real time, and maybe drama or whatever, their job. So it's like this made me become more of a selfish person, because I'm thinking about how other people are thinking about me when I step foot into a room, right? And that can be a huge just emotional drainer, and it can be a huge energy force drainer. It can really drain your energy force, and just your energy in general, and it can emotionally drain you like crazy. And it also makes you like a very selfish person, because you walk into a room and you just think everyone's thinking about you and they're focusing on you and they're focused on you, when in reality they're just focusing on themselves and their lives and their situations, or maybe even their own insecurities. Right? And they're in their own little bubble. They're in their own little realities, right? So, right, this can make, this kind of made me a selfish person, and it really like distracted me, and it really kind of made me a little bit detached from reality, just because of how society is structured, because of how society is set up in a way where me not fitting into the cookie cutout image of what's acceptable, of what's okay and what's accepted, and what is, what fits into society, what fits into the construct of society, right? Yet me not fitting into this sort of image that society created automatically made me feel subconsciously or consciously, I would say subconsciously insecure. And maybe I started to have maybe low self-esteem, or I did have, like low self-esteem, and because from that, and I was kind of unstable from that, and I was just insecure because of that, because I was born into this sort of construct that isn't allowing me to fit in by me playing my default state. So, I felt very subconscious about that. But I was able to see it, after a while. I was able to see that, this was in high school too. I would put, hats on, I would put beanies on, I would put like hoodies on and hats to try and cover my face, try to hide, try to keep a low profile, try and just hide myself. And it got to the point where I just kept doing that over and over again until I started to become aware of it, and I started becoming conscious of it, and I started seeing how I was I was watching how I was playing out, and I was watching how I was acting out in everyday life when it was based around my insecurities and based around what I was trying to hide, which were my insecurities. So I was watching myself play out, little by little, day by day. And, it got to a point where I just didn't really want to do it anymore. It just felt silly because I became more and more aware of it. It's like when you have to get to a point where you're becoming so self-realized in a certain area or in a certain, area in your life, and you just keep kind of feeding into that little area that needs your awareness, that needs your attention. It's like you're expanding your consciousness. It's like you're pushing yourself. You're creating a window of awareness, and the goal is to expand that window. Expand it, right? Expand it like this. And the more that you're trying to become conscious of it, the more you put in the effort to be conscious of it, the more that you're expanding this sort of window to look through, to see through yourself. You're looking through a window through yourself, and you're able to really watch the way you're moving, and you're able to watch the way your patterns are, and you recognize the way you move, and you recognize why you move the way you move and why you do the things you do. So that's the goal of trying to transcend and eliminate insecurities. Because insecurities, and I know I got sidetracked, but I'm going to finish this point, is that insecurities, they drain you. They're spiritual drainers, they're emotional drainers, they draw from your energy, they draw from your energy force, because you don't realize how much energy one thought holds. Yeah, one thought might not be a lot, but when you collect a bunch of thoughts, you build upon a bunch of thoughts, right? You create a bunch of thoughts, that sort of energy, it expands and it becomes something greater than just one thought. Because we don't really realize how much energy one thought holds. But when we're able to see the difference of one thought and like thousands of thoughts, comparatively, it is a substantial difference. It is a huge, huge difference. And energetically, and you'll be able to realize that. So it's a huge distraction, and it kind of can take away from what you're doing in everyday life, and it can draw your energy force, and it can distract you, and it can put you in this sort of false reality where you're like almost like delusional. You're living like a false reality because you're just so busy thinking about how people see you when no one really cares to see you. It's like in the Western world, it's like people see you, but they don't even see you. You're like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, yeah, you're like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, hey, how you doing? And they're going about their lives. This is how majority are. They don't care. They're so busy in their own little realities. They're so busy in their own little notions, their own little lives, maybe their own little insecurities, that they don't even know who they're even talking to when they talk to somebody. And it flies by them. It's like they're in hyperspace when they're in the Millennium Falcon. They're just flying by everything. That's how they are in everyday life when they're in society. That's how the majority operate. They're just going by, right? Like in hyperspace. So, I was going back to what I said earlier, is that I was hiding, right? I was hiding when I was in high school, maybe even before that. I would wear hoodies and I would try and hide my face, and I would try to hide in the back, try and just keep a low profile. And, it looked, I felt like, yeah, it really looked like maybe I was trying to hide something, or maybe I didn't want to be seen, or maybe I didn't want to be known. And I was trying to be very low key. But I was doing that every day, every single day, right? To the point where it started feeling very weird, because I would start watching myself. All of a sudden, I would start watching the way I was behaving, and what I was really doing, and how I was trying to hide so that I can supposedly get by, right, in everyday life. So it got to a point where it felt very awkward. It's like, why? It felt very silly. It's like, why am I doing this? Like, this feels silly, right? This feels like weird. This feels like unnecessary. Like, what am I doing? Like, no one really actually cares. Like, majority aren't even gonna notice, like, the finer details. Like, no one really knows. I know, it's because you're so... We see ourselves how no one else is going to see ourselves, as far as our insecurities, our flaws. People say that we could be our own worst critics and our own worst enemies. But perhaps there's some truth to that. It's like nobody sees ourselves like we see ourselves. No one will ever see you the way you see yourself. As far as your flaws, as far as your imperfections, as far as those finer little details, right? No one will ever see you the way you see yourself. And that's why we're so hard on ourselves, and that's why we're so insecure. But in reality, majority aren't gonna no one really notices the details that you notice. Nobody noticed the imperfections. Majority aren't gonna notice the imperfections that you notice. Majority isn't gonna realize and see those finer little details in your flaws and your imperfections. So yes, we can be our own worst enemies and our own worst critics and so on. It's like the only person who sees you the way you do is you. And that's why we're so, because we're experiencing this linear reality. It's very subjective, right? It's like we exist in this, it's like first person view, this first person perspective, and it's so still. It's a very still frame of perspective, to the point where we're able to see, our flaws, we're able to see our finer details, and we're able to really grasp our imperfections and our flaws that majority aren't even going to realize. I mean, maybe if you're with somebody, your closest partner, you're with them for like maybe 20 years, and you're like this with your partner. Maybe they'll be the closest person besides you that'll actually see you the way you see yourself, and the way that God essentially sees you. If you're with like that person that let's say you're like with your soulmate for 30 years or 50 years, they're going to be the second closest person. The second person to see you clearly, to see you for who you are, and to see your flaws, and to see, your finer details, and it's all really in our own heads. But this also has to do a lot with the way that society is structured and the conditioning behind society, right? So it's really not our fault. It's almost like we become a product. In a way, it's not our faults, because we become a product of our environment. These flies or gnats. We become a product of our environment, and it's kind of what we are born into, and we don't even realize it. This is all done on a subconscious level. So another thing that is amazing, right, with transcending your flaws, or wearing your flaws on your sleeve, owning your flaws, right, is like you see other people, you start to see other people the way you see yourself, right? You start to see others the way you see yourself. So you're not going to be as judgmental or critical or like uppity, when you're dealing with people, when you're observing people, you're handling people, you're experiencing other people in public or in society. This sort of creates room for you to be more accepting for other people and be more understanding of other people, accepting because they went through what you went through, and it's like a very humane experience. And this allows growth in becoming more of a open-minded person, an accepting person, an understanding person, because you could scope that person out, and you see that they went through what you went through, and you're not gonna judge them. You see yourself through them, and you see themselves through you. So that's another great thing about, owning your flaws, wearing your flaws, transcending your flaws, just owning them. But I think that was everything that I needed to cover. So yeah, the last thing, I'm gonna finish the video off. We're at 22 minutes. I feel like I can go for like an hour talking about this, easy. But I'm gonna finish off the video because the sun's going down and there's just more flies. It's like, and gnats, and just, I think I want to get home, but I'm gonna finish the video off on saying that how do you transcend, like you want to figure out how to transcend your flaws, or your, not even flaws necessarily, like your insecurities. You want to figure out how do you transcend your insecurities so that you can have more energy in your life, and you can have more areas and more space to work in the areas of your life you need to work into, and just have more energy for yourself, have more energy force within yourself, have more time, or have more energy, have more room to grow in, right? Have more space in your life to be able to focus on the things you need to really focus on, and not these like false narratives or these false sort of these delusions, right? Well, this is a very individual experience. It's a very subjective experience. What worked for me might work for you. What worked for me might not work for you, or for maybe most people, or otherwise it might work for most people. It's a very subjective and very individualized experience as far as what you need to go through, as far as what life is sending to you. And at the same time, simultaneously, it's you accepting the cards that have been dealt to you and handling the situation that has been subscribed to you, and handling it in a way where it's all in alignment and it's all playing out simultaneously, and it's all, oh geez, it's all written down in the script, right? I don't know, you know, it's a very individualized experience. You know, if maybe you turn off this video and then you decide there's a shift within you, a click within you. All of a sudden you step outside after watching this video, and now you just let go of all these insecurities that you have, or maybe you have one insecurity. It doesn't really matter. Insecurity is insecurity. So, you know, maybe you click off the video and today is the day, and you go right outside and you just let go of all your insecurities and you just flow, right? You're free, right? And now you have more energy. Now you have more energy force. Now you have more thought process, right? And more space to work in the areas of your life you need to work into, and you have more energy for yourself, right? And you're able to, you know, you have more space for spiritual growth, you know. Or you click off the video and you just have to suffer it for a while, you know. Like maybe there's a shift within you that'll take place after you've suffered it for another 5 years, 10 years, and that's just what needs to be, that's just what is written in the script. That's what you need to go through, and that's what you need to suffer, you know. Or you can click off the video right now and, you know, there's a shift within you that's going to just kind of slowly progress towards, you know, eliminating and transcending these insecurities, or whatever insecurity you have, right? Like, it's a very individualized experience. You know, not everyone's gonna click off the video and just, all right, that's it, I'm gonna go outside, I'm done, it's over. That would be awesome. That's what I would want. But it's like I said, it's a very individualized experience, and you, the viewer, or whoever's watching, you need to be able to discern within yourself, you know, am I ready for this? Am I ready to face what I'm running away from? Or am I going to take my time to progressively work towards, or work up to just facing what I need to face, so that I can let go of these attachments of hiding myself, right? And holding on to these insecurities. So it's also about facing what you're running away, you know. But a lot of us, unfortunately, we're so good at running away away from what we need to face, right? Like, us as humans, we're so good at running away, where we can run away from everything. We're so good at distracting ourselves from the notion of distraction. We're so good at hiding and running away from our responsibilities and procrastinating for eternity, when we have eternity anyway. So we're gonna keep procrastinating until we can't procrastinate in this eternity. So I think that was everything I needed to say in this video. There's so much to really talk about as far as this topic. I feel like it can go in like an infinite amount of directions, and I can bring up an infinite amount of points, and I can just go forever. But I think that was it, and I hope this video helped you guys. Don't worry. You know, it's like if you really are going through an insecurity, then it's think of it as you need to experience it so you don't have to experience it anymore. Whether, and I feel like I've said this before, but I'll say it again. It's like you need to experience the suffering a little bit so that you don't have to suffer it anymore and have to go through it anymore, right? Whether that means that you transcend it at some point in your life, maybe after you watch this video, or maybe when, you know, a few weeks from now, or a few days from now, or a few months, or a few years, or who knows. Or you escape it by physically leaving the vessel, leaving the body, right? So, I mean, it's inescapable. You're gonna have to escape it, because if you're born into it, not born into it, but if you're suffering it for a little while, then you're forced to not suffer it for a while. And that's just the whole point. That's all this really is. So, you know, there's contrast. So yeah, don't, fear not. Don't worry, because you're in it. Well, now you're forced to not be in it at some point, whether if that's today, after watching this video, tomorrow, next week, next month. That's how this life cycle works. So I hope that this video helped. And if it didn't help you, then I hope it gave you a little bit of insight or made you think a little bit. And this is kind of these are my experiences with insecurities and having these attachments. And yeah, this is my experience with that. So I'm gonna go back home and be done. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.